What's up, Animal Crossing fans? My name is Blaze. Today, I want to talk a little bit about a video that I came across over the weekend and a theory that's been kind of going around the internet about Animal Crossing New Horizons. And that theory is that Animal Crossing New Horizons won't feature randomly generated maps. Um, I don't really know where this comes from. I watched the video and there's some really valid points that were brought up. Um, but I do want to cover a couple things. I don't have any proof that, that like as far as visual proof that disproves that theory. But I do want to talk about a couple things as to why I think that is not true. So briefly, I want to cover like some of the points that were brought up in that video. I'll put a link to that video in the comments below as well, so you guys can see what video I was talking about. But basically, let's switch over to the other scene here, and I'll show you what I'm talking about here. So some of the things they talked about in that video were the very first scene where she's walking on the beach here. You can see this area right here very closely lines up, and it's almost identical to the area that's right over here. If you move forward a little bit further, you can see this little patch of land up here and this cliff line up to right here. This cliff right here and this patch of land. So you can see this is basically the same area as the treehouse map, and this map on the left side here is the map that was used in the Treehouse Live event at E3, and then this of course is the trailer. So then they also talked about how and you can see this rock right here is clearly the rock that's right here, so that's interesting as well. There's also this campsite area that we get to see a time lapse of all the stuff that happens. This area here is basically the area right here by the river. We've got this straight edge, this straight riverbank, and then it kind of protrudes into this little section here, and then so all the ridges here line up to this side of the map right here. It's pretty easy to see that. Even if you go back and you look at this area here, that's clearly right down here, so you can see this is the same as this. And if you want to pause the video and check it out for yourself, it's very clear this is true. Even if you go back to right here, you can see the river does curve, and this is another point they brought up in that video. The river does curve, and all these ridges match up to the ridges that are right here. The difference here is that there are no tents, so the villagers that put their tents here have not decided to do that just yet, so that's cool. Looks like and we do know that you'll be able to decide and help the villagers decide where they put their stuff, their houses, their tents, and things like that. And then there's another part that lines up, which they talked about. Actually, we see her kind of jump over this river, and the ridges on this riverbank also line up to what's right here. So the only thing I can say that doesn't line up, and I just now noticed this. This is something I just now noticed, is that this tree, it doesn't seem likely that tree is here, because I feel like if it was back here, you wouldn't see it at all, or you'd see much less of it because of the way that the world curves. But so that tree kind of stands out to me. It's kind of a question mark that I don't necessarily have an answer to right now, but that tree does stand out. It's not in the river. It looks like that tree is like maybe right here on the map, if you can see where my cursor is. But I don't think it's right here, and that's the only place it could be, is right here. So let's put a pin in that for now. I don't have an answer or response to that, but that is something that stood out to me just now as I'm recording. And I had a bunch of other points too I wanted to bring up before I recorded the video, and as I looked into them more, I realized that they still line up to different parts of the map. One of the points I was going to make was that this section right here doesn't look like it relates to anything on this section right here. But the more I looked into it, the more I realized that it's probably up here, because we've got this section here that protrudes out and goes back in, and that's this. And then there's a straight line, which is right here, and it goes on for a little while. And then it kind of goes back down to the southeast, and if you move the video a little bit forward, you can see that it does kind of protrude back down to the southeast. So again, it lines up. The video I watched also talked about how this area here is this area right here, and they walk up, and I initially thought they transitioned over into to stand on this rock. So I thought maybe the rock was actually north of here, and that you'd still see the rock or the cliffs while standing on that rock. But when they get up there, you actually see that it fades into the rock, and you can't see the cliffs because they're not there, because the cliffs are so far up that you don't see them from here. You do see this, which I don't know what this is. It looks like it might be this beach, but it also looks like it might be something else. So I'm not going to speculate on what that is right now. But I do want to say a couple things about some of the things that were brought up. And I want to logically tear this apart and give you guys an example of why I think this is not true. So first of all, Animal Crossing, population growing, New Leaf, City Folk, and Wild World, all 4 games, they all had randomly generated maps. So for me, it seems like I don't know why they would remove that from a game that is so heavily focused on customization and making your town unique, making your town your own, and being creative with the land that you've been given. The conclusion that video came to was that, oh, well, because the map from the trailer and the map in the treehouse are the same map, that means that everyone's going to have the same map, right? That's what that means. And I think that that's just such a wild conclusion to come to, especially considering the fact that I just mentioned that every Animal Crossing game has had those. So I just don't see how that's even possible for them to remove that feature, especially considering, that it's always been there. But I mean, it's almost like saying that we're going to remove weather effects from the game, that every day is going to be a sunny day in your town. I mean, that's also been a staple in Animal Crossing ever since the beginning. The real-time clock has been a staple of Animal Crossing ever since the beginning. So removing any one of those 3 things would not make it Animal Crossing anymore. It becomes a different game entirely. So that's the one thing, the first thing that came to mind. I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. I'm sorry. Doesn't make any sense. But the second thing, and this is the one that is logically going to rip it apart. And once you think about this from this perspective, the whole theory just deteriorates, and it's like, oh, that makes more sense. So after seeing that the sections that we saw in the trailer, all of these different scenes took place somewhere on this map, is it more reasonable to conclude that everybody is going to have the same map, that every single player is going to play on the same map? Or is it more reasonable to conclude that while making the trailer, the developers used one map? I mean, when you think about everything that has to happen to get the trailer, everything that has to happen to progress through the game to a point where you can make a video to show off some of the new features, it seems like it wouldn't make sense for a developer to, or the people who are playtesting or at least making the trailer, to start a new town, progress to a certain point, take a 3-second, video of this section of the game, make another new town, progress to a certain point, make another 3-second video of a different place, start a new town, progress to a certain point, make another new 3-second video of a certain point in the game. It just seems like it's a better use of their time to use one map, not to go and make 5 or 6 new towns just for the purpose of collecting 3 or 4 second videos to cut together for a reveal trailer. The demo that we saw at E3 was most likely developed just for E3, and most likely played so people can actually enjoy the game as it is. And probably only had the one map available in that demo environment, in that, you could even call it a beta environment. one of the things that is is interesting to me is I did hear that the split river is something that a lot of towns may have, and that's the only thing that's concerning to me is that I did hear, I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard the split river might be something that every town has, which I don't want, to be honest with you. I want to have a river that comes down, has the waterfall, and then branches off in one direction or the other direction, or even just goes straight down. I don't necessarily want to have a split river, and I'm worried that a lot of maps will have one, but I'm going to try to reset my town enough times to see if you can actually get something different. But if you look back to Animal Crossing for the GameCube, it was very, very hard, but it was possible to have a town with 3 tiers. So you'd have 2 sets of cliffs. You might have the set of cliffs here, but then on that town you might also have a set of cliffs down here too. So you have like the beach area, you go up the little ramp to a higher elevated area, and then you go up another ramp to an even higher elevated area. And the GameCube version allowed that to happen. It wasn't very common, but it still happened. And I'm hoping they specifically chose this layout so that you couldn't. So during the E3 demo, she wouldn't be tempted to go further north or go to the beach or anything like that. But it does appear like the trailer and the Treehouse demo use the same map. And that's fine because they had to put together a trailer. But I don't think it's very safe to assume that everyone's going to have this map, when the more logical conclusion is that they just use the same map to make the trailer. So I'm going to let you guys come to your own conclusions, and I just don't want you guys to think that, that was a fact. It's not a fact at all. And I personally on my channel am not going to speculate things that are that wild, and I really only want to report the truth. I'll tell you that there are speculations that there are things that I think about this game that I think are going to happen, but they weren't necessarily announced or confirmed by any developer. So I will let you know if I'm speculating, and I'll let you know what's a fact, and I'm not going to clickbait anybody. So hopefully that's enough for you to hit subscribe. But I do want to wrap up the video right here, so I want to thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out today. Post in the comments what you think about the map situation and whether or not we're going to have randomly generated maps, whether you agree or disagree or whatever the case is. Let me know in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the Flippity Flip.